You've seen Karl Towns come in already and really accept the idea that this is Jalen Brunson's team, and he's here to help Brunson and the group. Welcome to another edition of Begley's Mailbag here on SNY.TV. I'm Ian Begley, SNY NBA Insider, and I'm here to answer your questions about the Knicks and the NBA. We're going to start off here with a question from T Montana 4810. T Montana wants to know, could you see some of the rookies getting more playing time down the stretch? Now, I think that you look at what Tom Thibodeau has done recently, particularly that Sixers game on Tuesday, and he played Matt Ryan early on in the rotation. Matt Ryan, not a rookie, but he did open up his rotation a bit. I think they played 8 or 9 guys. Deuce McBride, I think, was the only bench guy to play more than 10 minutes, but he opened it up a bit. So I think you can see Thibodeau opening things up a bit more as the games continue to come here and not hammering the starters with a ton of minutes. As you saw in Indiana, I think you could see that rotation open up. Whether it's the rookies playing Ariel Hukporti, Bacome Dadier, I don't know. I would assume more so that he's going to continue to lean on a Jericho Sims and go to a Matt Ryan and obviously Deuce McBride, and then, you know, Campaign being healthy, when Precious Achiuwa gets healthy, he'll lean on those guys. So I don't foresee big minutes for those rookies, barring another injury here. With Dadier, he did get rotation minutes, season opener against Boston. Thibodeau did not go to him in the rotation after that game. He's seen spot minutes since then, but I don't see a scenario, barring a big injury, where these guys, you'll see Hukporti, you'll see Dadier in this regular rotation. We've got a query here from Mendoza Tweets. Mendoza wants to know, any chance Mitch is ahead of schedule in his rehab? We need him desperately. What's the injury update on McCullough? Any timeline on his return? Just specifically with McCullough, he has not appeared in a G League game for the Westchester Knicks. So I don't think there's any specific timeline for his return there. When you talk about Mitchell Robinson, I heard going back to the beginning of the regular season that there was, optimism, nothing but good things around Mitchell Robinson's rehab. People feeling good about it. As far as a timetable moving up or not moving up, the Knicks had said originally December, January would be the time where he could return if the rehab continued to go well. That's a pretty wide range, right? That's an 8-week range. So I still do think, you're looking at somewhere in there for Mitchell Robinson's return. Again, hadn't heard anything about a setback, had only heard positive things about Robinson's rehab going back to the beginning of the regular season. So based on that, I would think we're still in line for that December to January return with Robinson, and with McCullough, less certain there. Green Panda GP wants to know, do the Knicks see the Cat, Mitchell Robinson, or some other rim protector front court as a feature? Tibbs hasn't played Cat and Sims together. Are they 100% committed to Cat at the 5? Or are they ready to make that pivot? With Mitchell Robinson, you're talking about a return in December or January. It's hard to make a strong prediction here on what they might do when Robinson's back. Obviously, Thibodeau has not tried Towns at the 4, Sims at the 5 to date. So I don't think you'll see that. But I do expect, if Robinson's back healthy on the floor, I do expect them to play on the floor together at times. I don't think the Knicks would shy away from playing Robinson and Towns together. Robinson at the 5, Towns at the 4. Similar to what Minnesota did with Rudy Gobert and Towns. I think you will see that. You will see them take a look at that if and when Robinson is back. I don't think, if I'm guessing, I don't think the starting lineup changes. I don't think Karl Towns moves to the 4 and Mitchell Robinson comes back as a starting center. If I had to guess, I would guess Robinson would return off the bench, but the Knicks would not hesitate to look at that Karl Towns, Mitchell Robinson front line and see how it works, and maybe continue using it throughout the season. We've got one here from Dylan Backer. Dylan wants to know, how serious would the Knicks be about looking to trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo should the Bucks continue to crumble? And would it be a move they'd strongly consider pursuing? Now, my thing with the Giannis stuff is obviously the Knicks have gone all in with their Mikal Bridges trade and their Karl Anthony Towns trade. They don't have significant draft capital to move. But even taking that out of the equation, one of the allures of trading for Karl Towns was A, they had a voided center, but B, Towns, the best shooting big man in the NBA, one of the best shooting big men in the NBA, he stretches the floor for this offense, and you're seeing the benefits of that over the course of early on this season, where the Knicks offense has been mostly good, has been putting up pretty strong numbers. And so if you're saying trading Towns for Giannis and you're the Knicks, you're taking away that shooting, right? You're taking away the big guy who's stretching the floor for you, which was a big reason why they pulled the trigger on that Towns trade. So I can't see them including Towns in a deal. Now listen, if Milwaukee was gonna, listen to them on other players, not named Towns, and maybe you put together a deal where it's 2 or 3 other players, maybe the Knicks would strongly consider that. But it would surprise me if they said, hey, we're going to flip Karl Towns and get Giannis in here. One of the reasons is because of the shooting. The other is because they seem committed to this group, and they seem to want to see how this group looks and see where it can take them. Now, maybe the other team in town, the Brooklyn Nets, would have more serious conversations with the Bucks if it got to that point, because the Nets have that draft capital that they can go ahead and take to the table with Milwaukee in any talks for Giannis. Depending on who you listen to, Giannis does like the idea of being in this market. Knicks or Nets, I don't know, but he likes the idea of being in this market. So I think the Nets could come to the table and be, a contender there for Giannis if the Bucks decide to go ahead and make that move and break up the franchise by moving Giannis Antetokounmpo. Got one here from the wing player. The wing player wants to know, what's the biggest factor keeping the Knicks from being true contenders? Can they address it this season? Health is the obvious answer, so I'm not going to go there. Maybe scoring off the bench. I think that depends on how Landry Shamet comes back from his rehab, and if the Knicks go ahead and re-sign Shamet, I would expect that to happen if Shamet's rehab continues to go well, so maybe he solves your issue with scoring punch off the bench. But really, big picture sense, I think it's, are you committed to winning as a group? And that sounds simple, but what I mean by that is, are you committed to taking fewer shots for the greater good? Are you committed to giving everything you can on defense for the greater good? Because this Knicks team has several players that can put up, 25 plus points a night. Whether it's Mikal Bridges, who did it in Brooklyn, Jalen Brunson, obviously, Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby has scored the basketball really well for the Knicks lately. So everybody can't do that every night, though. Some players have to take a back seat on a given night to a player that has it going well. And so can you deal with that as an individual if you're not getting the touches that you had hoped to get, if you're not getting the shots you would hope to get? Can you put your ego aside for the greater good, the Knicks winning? And I think that this group, it shouldn't be a big issue there, because you've seen Karl Towns come in already and really accept the idea that this is Jalen Brunson's team, and he's here to help Brunson and the group push forward. He's not here to take over as the face of the franchise, and he's done, I think, an excellent job both with what he said and how he's played in that role. And so I think it starts there, and also starts with Jalen Brunson, who I think is strongly on the same page with the coaching staff and Tom Thibodeau. And as long as your top player, and your top players, I should say, are on the same page with the head coach, you can have big success in this league. And I think as long as some players are committed to, again, putting the team above themselves from an individual stat perspective, you can have great success if you're this Knicks team. So I think that's where I go. Big picture is, are you committed to doing what it takes to win, even if it means sacrificing your own numbers? That'll do it for this edition of Begley's Mailbag on SNY.TV. But please keep those questions coming, because we'll have more mailbags in the future and more putbacks coming your way very soon.